2 years ago, almost nobody outside Asia could even pronounce the name of this thing. Labubu. It all traces back to a single photo in April 2024. Lisa from Blackpink clips a Labubu to her bag and posts it. Within a week, Pop Mart's sales across Southeast Asia jumped 30%. People are lining up outside stores at 6 in the morning. One of these things sells at auction for $170,000. Can you imagine? By the time Rihanna and Beckham are photographed with one a year later, the fire's already been burning across Asia for months. The West just showed up late, as usual. The company behind it, Pop Mart, pulled in $5.5 billion in revenue in a single year. On paper, one of the best businesses of the decade. And everyone tells the story the same way. Celebrities. Hype. That's just the surface. A plush toy doesn't sell 100 million units off one celebrity photo. Something much bigger was engineered underneath it. It's some of the smartest product design I've seen in years. In this video, I'll show you why Labubu actually worked and how, in a matter of months, it went from the most wanted object on the planet to a textbook case of a company killing its own golden goose. My name is B, and you probably don't know me yet. I've been doing business in Asia for 20 years. And while Bertrand tracks where the money moves across the region, I track why people open their wallets in the first place. If that's useful to you, hit subscribe. To understand the fall, you need to understand how unlikely the rise actually was. Labubu didn't come out of a corporate design lab, it came out of a children's picture book. Kazing Lung, an illustrator born in Hong Kong and raised in the Netherlands, drew this little forest creature back in 2015 as part of a story series called The Monsters. Pointy ears, 9 teeth, a grin somewhere between adorable and vaguely evil. For years, basically nobody cared. The company that changed that was Pop Mart. Founded in Beijing in 2010 by Wang Ning, which started out essentially as a variety store. Phone cases, cosmetics, random gadgets, nothing close to what it's known for today. The business was stalling until Wang noticed one shelf kept selling out, collectible figurines, so he dropped everything else and bet the company on toys sold in a very specific way. The blind box. You pay $10 to $30 for a sealed box and don't know which figure is inside until you open it. Each series includes a rare secret edition, roughly a 1-inch -72 chance of pulling one. Hold on to that detail, the whole story turns on it. In 2019, Lung licensed his monsters to Pop Mart. For 4 years, Labubu sat in the catalog as just one character among many, doing fine, nothing remarkable. Then, in October 2023, Pop Mart put Labubu on a plush keychain. 6 months later, Lisa posted that photo. What happened after barely sounds real. In 2024, the Labubu franchise pulled in around $430 million, up more than 700% in a year. In 2025, it hit $1.95 billion. One character generated 38% of everything the company sold. U.S. sales multiplied by 12 in a single year. And at its peak, in the summer of 2025, Pop Mart's market value exceeded Hasbro, Mattel, and Sanrio, combined all three of them, beaten by a plush monster on a keychain made by a company most people in the West couldn't have named a year earlier. So that's the rise. The real question is why it scaled the way it did. Celebrity posts create spikes, and spikes usually fade within weeks. This one ran for 2 years and rebuilt an entire company around it. Something else was clearly doing the heavy lifting. Strip away the fur and the teeth and look at what Pop Mart actually built. A slot machine you can carry in your pocket. The blind box format runs on something psychologists call variable reward. You don't know what you're going to get, and that uncertainty is the actual product. It's the same mechanism behind slot machines, loot boxes in video games, and refreshing your Instagram feed your brain releases more dopamine anticipating an uncertain reward than it does receiving a guaranteed one. Casinos have understood this for a century. Pop Mart wrapped it in plush and sold it to 25-year-old women. The design goes even deeper than that. Each series has around 12 regular figures, plus one secret edition, with roughly 1 in 72 odds. So when you open a box and get a duplicate, you haven't technically lost. You're one box closer, at least according to your brain. People filmed themselves opening 10, 20, 50 boxes, chasing the secret figure. And those unboxing videos became free advertising watched by millions, each one recruiting new participants into the same loop. Pop Mart also did something deliberate. It kept supply below demand. Stores had limited stock. Online drops sold out in minutes. And that scarcity created a resale market where a $30 Labubu could trade for $300. Rare editions carried markups of up to 2,000% over retail. Nothing new. The same dynamic plays out with Pokemon cards and sneakers. Pop Mart made zero money from those resales, but the resale market was accomplishing something more valuable than direct revenue. It was making the product feel like an asset. When a friend tells you the toy she paid $30 for is now worth $300, a plush keychain stops being a purchase and becomes a smart move. People were buying with the sense that they couldn't lose money. And you can measure how well this machine actually worked. By the end of 2025, Pop Mart had 72 million registered members in mainland China alone, with a repurchase rate of 55.7%. More than half of everyone who bought once came back for more. In retail, numbers like that are almost unheard of. The full architecture is genuinely clever. The uncertainty makes buying feel like a game. The secret editions turn one purchase into 10. The scarcity turns customers into hunters. The resale prices turn a toy into an investment. And the celebrities sit on top as the visible 5%, the part everyone actually writes articles about. That machine is why a picture book monster reached $2 billion a year. And that same machine is exactly why everything eventually collapsed. Because it rested on one fragile condition. And in 2025, Pop Mart broke that condition itself. Every layer of the system depended on scarcity. The sense that there would never be quite enough Labubis to go around. Through 2025, that scarcity was creating real chaos. Fights broke out in UK stores, bad enough, that Pop Mart pulled Labubu plush from British shelves entirely and moved sales online. In California, robbers hit a warehouse and made off with $30,000 in inventory. Genuine customers couldn't buy at retail anymore. Scalpers with bots beat them to it every time. A $30 toy routinely resold for $300. Inside Pop Mart, this looked like a solvable problem. Millions of people want your product and can't get it. Every business school on the planet teaches the same answer: make more. And it's easy to understand the temptation. At Statries, we work with entrepreneurs doing business across Asia every day. And when demand explodes like this, the pressure to scale is enormous. The factory says yes. Investors say faster. Competitors are circling. Turning down money sitting on the table is one of the hardest calls in business. So Pop Mart said yes. In early 2024, Pop Mart was producing around 300,000 plush toys a month. By late 2025, that number hit 30 million a month, a 100-fold increase in under 2 years. With new factories spun up in Vietnam, Indonesia, and Cambodia, flooding every channel that had been starved of supply, the company's Koku explained the logic using a concerticate comparison. Fans overpay scalpers because a stadium can't add more seats, but a factory can, so why let scalpers pocket money that should go to fans? It sounds completely reasonable, and for almost any other product, it would have been the right call if people are lining up for your sneakers or your ice cream, making more Prince money. But nobody was actually paying $300 for a plush toy. They were paying $300 for something that was hard to get. The difficulty was the product. Pop Mart looked straight at its golden goose and decided to kill it. Resale prices fell by half on most models, and some editions dropped below retail. The moment a Labubu costs less second-hand than it does in the store, the asset story is dead. Nobody feels smart anymore. Scalpers dumped their inventory, which pushed prices down further and triggered even more dumping. Without the resale premium, the entire loop ran in reverse. No hunt, because everything's in stock. No unboxing drama, because the secret figure isn't worth anything special anymore. No new recruits, because your friend is now telling you the toy she paid $30 for is worth $15. Surprisingly, those sales kept growing, even as the foundation cracked. Revenue jumped 250%. In the third quarter of 2025, even as resale prices were collapsing, the machine was still shipping. 2 shelves faster than desire was dying off. From inside the company, the numbers said everything was fine. But those numbers were measuring the past. So here's what the present looks like midway through 2026. Search interest in Labubu is down 90% from its peak last August. The stock has lost more than half its value since summer, $33 billion in market cap gone. In March, Pop Mart published its best results ever. Revenue up 185%, profit up more than 300%, and the stock dropped 22% that same day. Record numbers, and investors still ran for the exit, because everyone could see the engine behind those numbers was slowing down. Counterfeits made things worse. Fakes, nicknamed Lafufus, flooded every marketplace, at one point making up 40% of listings on some platforms. UK authorities seized £3.5 million worth of counterfeit goods, many failing basic safety tests. When your product's entire value proposition is authenticity and status, an ocean of fakes is poison. Analysts have adjusted accordingly. HSBC cut its growth forecast for Pop Mart this year and trimmed earnings estimates through 2027 on resale platforms. A Labubu that traded for $70 last June now goes for a fifth of that, with some additions sitting below store price. To be clear, Pop Mart isn't dying. $5.4 billion in revenue and $1.8 billion in profit is far from bad. This is simply a very profitable company that lost its magic. The next earnings report drops in August, and everyone will be reading it for one thing: what's left once the fever has fully passed. That's the crash. But zoom out from the stock chart, because the crash isn't actually the most important part of this story. For 30 years, China's role in the global economy was to make things cheaper. The West designs, China manufactures, and the brand on the box is American or European. Labubu broke that arrangement. It's a Chinese company selling a Chinese-owned character, at full price, to consumers in New York and Paris who were fighting in stores to get one. People bought it because they wanted it, desire, at scale, exported straight out of Beijing. Look at where the growth actually came from. In 2025, Pop Mart's sales in the Americas multiplied more than eightfold in a single year, reaching roughly $940 million. Overseas markets went from a side business to 44% of total revenue. The company now runs 630 stores across 20 countries. With flagship locations on Fifth Avenue and Oxford Street, the most expensive retail streets on earth, luxury brand addresses that a Chinese toy company simply took, the margins are staggering. Pop Mart's gross margin in 2025 hit 72%. For context, that's luxury territory, Louis Vuitton territory. Companies competing on price typically sit around 30 to 40%. You only reach 72% when customers are paying for what the product means, not what it costs to make. A Labubu costs a few dollars to produce. The other 25 are pure brand. For decades, the question in boardrooms was when a Chinese consumer brand would finally crack the West. Everyone assumed it would come from cars or electronics. It came from a monster with 9 teeth. Even governments took notice when the British Prime Minister visited China in January 2026. Pop Mart's commitment to a London European headquarters and 7 new UK stores was announced as part of the trade discussions. A toy company sitting in the middle of trade diplomacy between 2 major economies. That tells you how far this had moved beyond toys. I've watched Western brands spend fortunes trying to manufacture this kind of demand. Decades of ad budgets, celebrity contracts, brand consultants. Pop Mart got there with a blind box and a resale market. It's proof that a Chinese company can engineer global desire, which makes the fall that much more frustrating, because nobody undercut them. They took the most valuable thing they'd built that wanting and killed it with a spreadsheet. Today, Pop Mart's answer is to copy Disney. Sony Pictures has signed on for a Labubu movie with the director of Paddington attached. There's a theme park in Beijing being expanded. They've launched a jewelry line where Labubu gold necklaces sell above $2,000, and they've built out a bench of other characters, Molly, Crybaby, Twinkle Twinkle, each already generating hundreds of millions a year. The bet is that a character can outlast its hype cycle if you keep building worlds around it. It worked for Mickey Mouse. Nobody's proven yet that it works for a blind box monster. That's the test worth watching. Creating a global craze out of Beijing was supposed to be impossible. And Pop Mart pulled it off, keeping one alive after flooding the market. Nobody's managed that either. So I'll leave you with the question their own CEO now wakes up to every morning. If desire is something you can manufacture, is it something you can repair? That's what this channel covers. What's really being built in Asia before it shows up on your side of the world. If that's useful to you, subscribe. If you've bought one of these or sold one at the peak, tell me in the comments, we read them. See you maybe in the next video.